Kampala, Damba, Moses, and the gathered ones in Kampala. For those of you watching this that are not from Kampala, Uganda, I have Damba and Moses that have been contacting me to do some teachings for their gathered ones, their church. We talked today over Messenger, video talk. And they have a beautiful little place to gather underneath this large tree. I asked Damba, what does his name mean? And he said it meant very heavy, weighty. And then his friend, who spoke very good English, hello Moses, his name is Moses, and we pretty much know about that guy, right? So to Damba and Moses and the gathered ones in Kampala, under the tree. I'm going to share with you what the Father shared with me about the very first verse in John. I have my Bible on my laptop. And it has the Old Testament, the Hebrew words, translated into English, and the New Testament translated from Greek into English. Every word is individually translated. And if we read the very first couple of verses of John in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, if we read the first two verses in my English Bible that I read for many, many years, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made." Verse 4. "In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in darkness, and the darkness could not comprehend it. That's the first 5 verses of John. But if you look at the Greek words that were translated into English, literally each word translated, it shows some hidden meanings. Anytime we study the scripture, it can be pages on a book, words printed on the pages of a book, but there is always much more underneath the surface of the words. There is a deeper level of truth. What is truth? Truth is anything that proceeds from the heart of the Father to those who have an ear to hear what He is saying. I'll say that again. Truth is anything that proceeds from the Father's heart toward His little children when they are in the position to have ears to hear what He is saying. I want you to remember that. Saying. Yeshua, Jesus as He's called, only said what He heard the Father say. He told us that. He said, I only say what I hear the Father say, and I only do what I see the Father do. Now I'm going to read for you out of this laptop the Greek words literally translated into English. I'll read again the first verse of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's the English translation, the King James Version English translation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, let's read it with every Greek word, the original printed language of the New Testament, literally, every word, and see what the Father has hidden for us. The Father hides things for us. He doesn't hide them from us. I'll read. In the origin, or the beginning, was the saying. And the saying was very near to the Father. And Elohim was the saying. Now, in the very first verse of the Bible, in Genesis, it says, Bereshit bara Elohim. Bereshit, in the beginning. Bara, created. Elohim. Elohim in the Hebrew is plural. It means more than one. The Father, the Son, the Spirit. Elohim. And yet, that same Hebrew word, Elohim, is translated in the Old Testament as the word God. In the beginning, created God, but it's plural. Gods. The Father, the Son, the Spirit. In the very beginning of the universe's forming, Elohim, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit created. And it was created by saying. When the Father says, the Son says. When the Father speaks to something to create something, Yeshua, who is one with him, speaks exactly what the Father speaks. He said, I only say what I hear my Father say. Back to John 1:1, the Greek literal translation of every word. In the origin or the beginning was the saying, and the saying was very near to the Father. And Elohim, all three of them, was the saying. This was in the origin, the beginning, very near to the Father. The saying. All things came to be through him. The saying one. And apart from him, not even one thing came to be which has come to be. In him was life, and the life was the light of the humans. And the light is appearing in darkness. And the darkness could not grasp it. Now, I kept seeing this phrase, the saying, all over the scriptures. So I sat with our father one morning and I asked him. He likes it when we ask him questions. He likes it when we humble ourselves like little children and come sit with him and be near to him, to ask him questions so that we may know his thoughts, so that we may know his ways, so that we may know how he sees things, how he sees us, and how he sees others. He is seeking those of us who are seeking to be near to him as his little children. So I'm sitting with him as his little child. And I asked him, I call him Big Daddy because he's big and he's my daddy. I asked him, what does this mean, the saying, which was at the origin of creation? What is the saying? This is so good. You know, the Father knows the end from the beginning. In him was the completion of all things at the very beginning. The completion of all things was already done when he first became speaking at the origin. At the beginning of creation, the finish was already finished in his mind. So let's look at the finish. What is going to happen at the finish of time as we know it? It's described for us in Matthew that all will be gathered in the vast assembly. All angels, all humans, all human-angel hybrids, they'll all be gathered before the Father and before the Son and before the Spirit. The sheep will be on the right, and the goats will be on the left. Now, the sheep are the children of the Father. They gave themselves to him. They loved him. They were filled with his light while they lived here on the earth. The sheep heard the voice of the Good Shepherd and followed him. The goats they did not desire the Father. The goats are going to get what they wanted, and the sheep are going to get what they wanted. The goats did not want life, light, or love. Our Father is love, and they did not want him. So they get to go to a place, an eternal place. It's described as the lake of fire. No life, no light, and no love. But the sheep, they also get what they wanted. They wanted light, life, and love. For the Father is light, life, and love. So the sheep get to have what they wanted. So when the Father says to Yeshua, okay, it's time, let all the goats go where they wanted to go, and let all the sheep come into my house. So Yeshua stands up. This is written for us in the scriptures. He stands up and says to the goats, you get to go to your new home today. The devil, his angels, the beast, the false prophet in Revelation, all of their angel followers and their human followers, you get to go to your new home where there is no light, no love, and no life. And then Yeshua turns to the sheep and says the saying which was at the beginning. Come into my Father's house, into the places that have been prepared for you at the beginning. See, the Father knew that we would know him. He knew that those against him would not love him, seek to know him. He knew that some of us would be religious and know about him, but not really seek with our whole heart to know him. He knew at the beginning that when the saying went forth, come, come, come into my Father's house. He knew that at that saying, the saying, is there a more important saying that you can think of? You're out there with the sheep. He's cleansed you totally of everything that you've ever done that was not like him. He's burned away everything in you that was not like him. You don't even have any thoughts of things that you did that were not like him. He has cleansed you with fire and clothed you with light, because they said in the beginning, let us make man in our own image to look like us. And the Father is clothed in light, and there is no sin in him. Jesus, Yeshua, the same. The Spirit of the Father, the same. They are all one. Three individual entities, but one. As Elohim. Remember Elohim, the plural Hebrew word that speaks of the three being one, the Father, the Son, the Spirit. Can you think of anything more exciting than to be in that group called the sheep, realizing that you have been cleansed, you have been made pure, you have been made right, just like they are right. You've been clothed in light with a brand new eternal body. And it's just, you look around and you see the other sheep, knowing the purity of them, the cleansing of them, the cleansing of yourself. Everyone clothed in light. And Yeshua looks out and says, come into my Father's house. At the beginning of the universe, that saying, the saying, was already done. The Father knows the end from the beginning. Yeshua, Jesus said, I am the first and the last. He used the Greek alphabet to say that he is the Alpha and the Omega. The Alpha is the first letter of the Greek alphabet. The Omega is the last letter of the Greek alphabet. He is the beginning. He is the end. He was there saying what the Father said in order to create the universe. He will be there in that last day to say what the Father tells him to say when he says the saying, "Come into my Father's house." He said he would go prepare places for us. Dwelling places for us. In the beginning, in the origin, at the creation of the universe, the saying already was. The end of time as we know it, and a brand new time beginning. The saying, "Come into my Father's house," was at the beginning and is now. I want you to learn to begin to see yourself as finished and standing in that vast assembly, cleansed and clothed in light, looking like them, the Father, the Son, the Spirit, thinking like them, doing what they do, hearing what they say, and saying what they say. And we can begin to do those things here and now. Kampala is waiting to hear you say what you hear the Father say. Kampala is crying out to know these things. Kampala is mourning for the children of the Father that want to sit with Him every day and know Him, not just know about Him, but Kampala is crying out for those that know Him to come sit with Him, to have ears to hear what He says, so that you can turn and say what He says to Kampala. You are already cleansed. You are already clothed in light. You already have a brand new body. You already are there in that vast assembly. You already are there hearing the saying, "Come into my Father's house," to a place that has been prepared for you. Only through Yeshua, Jesus, can you know the Father. He said what he heard the Father say. When he healed someone, he saw the Father do it first, and then he did it. Seek first seek first the kingdom of the Father and his right ways. And everything you need automatically just comes to you. Very, very few people understand very much about that. Seek first the kingdom of the Father and his right ways, and everything you need comes. Kampala needs you. You may be a small gathering under a tree, but Kampala needs you to hear the Father and say what he says to Kampala, or whatever city you live in or near. Thank you, Damba, Moses. Thank you. I honor you.